Yo guys, what's going on? It's Brian and Jim with Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and today we're going to be reviewing Mortal Kombat 4, or I should say Mortal Kombat Gold, on the Dreamcast.
Since we're just doing console ports, we decided to only go for the quote-unquote best version of Mortal Kombat 4, the Dreamcast one. So, Mortal Kombat Gold. Released in 1999, this was a console launch title for the Dreamcast. Developed by Eurocom and published by Midway, this basically is the closest you're going to get to a full arcade experience, with maybe a few extras thrown in there. Now, the initial launch for this game was a disaster. It was a bug-ridden mess. So, we decided, screw that, if you're going to do it, get the re-release version. It came out a month later, and it fixed a lot of the game-ending glitches. So, at this point in 2015, there's no reason to not play the best version.
Jim, it also has meat!
Okay, yeah, wonderful meat. Always about the damn meat.
We love our meat!
Anyway.
Jim, look at my meat!
Go away! Put that away! Put it back!
Well,
on to the review.
Now, graphically, Mortal Kombat 4 and Mortal Kombat Gold took a huge step in evolving the Mortal Kombat series in general. No longer do you have digitized graphics, but rather 3D models. And while games like Tekken and Soul Calibur were already doing this and are well ahead of the curve, Mortal Kombat decided they were going to go this route. This game may not be full 3D in the sense of those games. However, they did create full 3D models, and to Jim and I, they look pretty goddamn good. Now, a lot of Dreamcast purists and general fans were disappointed with Mortal Kombat Gold. Even with the updates, they claimed it didn't look as good as the arcade. And I'll give it that. It doesn't. I know the Dreamcast started to have the reputation of being arcade perfect, but not every game on the Dreamcast was, and this is just another example. Doesn't mean the graphics look bad, just means they probably could have done a little more. One of the interesting effects, though, that we do see throughout this game is that 3D feel of things coming towards the camera. Whether that be blood, or at the end of a fatality you have a head coming towards you. It's all stuff me and Jim really enjoyed. So, as you can see from the scores, we both gave it 7s. It's definitely not perfect, and it might have been a step down for what Dreamcast could have handled, but we still enjoyed it. As far as the beer requirement meter is concerned, I'm only going to throw one beer in there to shut up all the people who were bitching that it wasn't arcade perfect. Wah!
Alright, the sound. Me and Bri differ here a little bit. I don't think the sound's necessarily bad at all, I just find it very average. Now, at this point, having crystal clear voice work and music quality, it's a CD-based console, you have to expect that. It's the music tracks themselves. They're not bad, I just found them a little, kind of boring. But, to their credit, they actually do kind of mix the styles of 2 and 3 together well. There's a lot of the old Asian-inspired stuff, there's some tribal stuff, and, hell, there's even some more stuff that's a little closer to the techno side. All in all, it's not a bad package. Bri liked it a bit more because he's a fan of gothic horror movies. He eats it up. And one more thing, voice acting, it's pretty hit or miss. When it's good, it's pretty good. When it's bad, hoo-hoo mama.
We'll lose you for good.
Brian gave it a 7, I gave it a 5. You're really only going to need 2 beers to fully enjoy the experience here.
The control. Can I get one thing out of the way? Jim and I are both very aware and agree that the Dreamcast controller has a goofy design. It's not that it's the most uncomfortable controller, but the wire being where it was, and it was just a little goofy. So let's get that right out of the way. So anyway, the control in this game is really tight. Me and Jim really enjoyed it. They still kept the block button, they had the run button, and everything was just so damn smooth. Although the input tolerances for special moves was still tight, it gave you a little more leeway than I think Mortal Kombat Trilogy or 3 did. The one area where me and Jim felt it fell flat is using the weapons, and Jim will talk a little bit more about that, but in general, it was just slow and it felt kind of sloppy. Other than that though, we're fine with the control. As you see, I gave it a 9, Jim gave it an 8. I guess I'll add 1 beer just for how goddamn slow it is taking out that weapon.
Alright, the gameplay. Honestly, there's no real differences here between this and Mortal Kombat 4. And really, Mortal Kombat 4 did a couple things. The biggest one, obviously, is the item and weapon system. And it really isn't that big of a difference maker in games. Doesn't do that much more damage than any normal attacks. It can be good for a one-shot, but it also kind of takes a weirdly long amount of time to unsheath your weapon, so good luck with that. Besides that, there's no animalities, there's no brutalities, there's no babalities, and there's no friendships. It goes straight back to fatalities. But, in a weird move, each character only has 2 fatalities, which is kind of a bummer. It's the first 3D game in the series, but it still basically keeps true to its 2D elements. The only really 3D thing about it is the fact that you can sidestep in a 3D plane to try and avoid attacks, but honestly, it's not the smoothest. In games like Virtua Fighter, Tekken, they all do it a lot better. Also, you have endurance fights, you have team modes. Also, they added a maximum damage cap. I looked that term off Wikipedia. Sue me. Anyway, basically what it does is it caps off the amount of damage you can do with a combo so you don't one-shot your opponent in some unbreakable string. Once you hit a certain damage point, it'll automatically break it. So, that kind of keeps it a little fair. Overall, I mean, it's okay. It's Mortal Kombat, what can you say? At least with this version, we didn't have too many problems with it, so Brian liked it, he gave it a 9, I gave it an 8. I found the game to run just a bit too fast for my liking. It's still solid fighting mechanics. And honestly, beer-wise, let's add 2 beers for only having 2 fatalities per character.
Whoa, the originality. If you watched our MK3 review, then you noticed as the game updates came out, the originality went down. And since today we are technically looking at Mortal Kombat Gold, it's not that much more original than Mortal Kombat 4. 4 would have gotten much higher scores from us, but this game, it's just an update of that. You have additional characters, improved graphics, a lot of the bugs and glitches are gone like Jim mentioned, but everything else is pretty much the same. And other than the fact that you now can swivel on a 3D plane, this game didn't add any type of new cool finisher. It added weapons, which was okay, that's new. But like we said, we're looking at gold right now, so here are the scores. I gave it a 5, Jim gave it a 4. Not that much new here, but still, it's a fun game. I'm not even gonna add a beer, because we do realize this is just an update to an existing game.
Alright, the replayability. Hey, it's gonna get high scores. You start the game with 15 characters, and they all play decently differently enough. There's 15 stories to unlock at the end, and once you beat the story mode, you do get the in-game graphical FMV kind of story ending. You know what I mean. Anyway, there's 5 difficulty settings, there's also all the different game modes, and there's unlockables to be playing around with too. There's a lot of content in this. We both gave it 10s. You can add 1 beer for maybe the lack of finishing moves to try out.
So overall, Jim and I both agree. This is another good fighting game. I say good because in the Mortal Kombat series, this is probably one of the weakest. And it's for a few simple reasons. Mortal Kombat Gold came out. It was supposed to be a major upgrade and improvement on Mortal Kombat 4. However, in our eyes, this game just felt limited. From the graphics, the sound, the lack of additional finishers, only 2 fatalities, the lack of special moves, it just felt like there could have been a little more. Maybe they rushed this game out. We don't know the whole story, but hey, it's still fun overall. As you can see from our scores, me and Jim, we both gave it a 7. And like I said, we had such high hopes after Trilogy and all of these other amazing Mortal Kombat games that this one kind of felt phoned into us. Still enjoyed playing it, but it could have done better. As you see, when we combined all of our scores together, it comes out to a 7.3. The lack of originality, the graphics, the sound, they all are the biggest driving points for bringing this game down. By no means should you avoid this game. If you're gonna get a copy, we really highly suggest just go with the gold. But the only problem is that's a little expensive. So if you have to cheap out, then stick to 4, and it'll be fine either way. As far as the beer pairing is concerned, Jim and I are going to go with the Ballast Point Grapefruit Sculpin. Some people truly love it. Most people don't really care for it. But either way, I think we can all agree, it's a goddamn expensive beer. Jim and I see what they were going for, and we felt it could have been a little bit better. So why not combine these two? Either you're really gonna love it, or you might hate it. But it's gonna be an interesting night either way. As always, guys, thanks for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you click like or subscribe to us. Let your friends know about us, and don't worry, for the rest of the month, we have plenty more Mortal Kombat content coming your way. Cheers, guys.